So in Perek Zayin, in the 7th chapter of Tanya, we talked about reaching rock bottom. We talked about a person having the experience that opens the door to Teshuvah. And then in the beginning of Perek Ches, we said after this contemplation, and after a person realizes the disastrous consequences that are engendered through sin, so then Tikova B'Libei then becomes established in his heart, Goydel HaRachmanus, the enormous tragedy of the situation, the sadness of the situation. And in doing so, when he arouses divine compassion, this brings forth a revelation of the 13 attributes of mercy. And we explained the 13 attributes of mercy in great detail. We spoke about the power of Teshuvah and how that which is doesn't have to be anymore, because that's what Yigil Mitzrachim mean. It's able to bring about a wondrous restoration that's actually illogical. It defies the system. And we termed this, we described in the previous class, Yud Ke Vav Ke, the letters of God's name, and we explained the meaning of bringing the Hey home. Because Yud is followed by a Hey, was followed by a Vav, followed by a Hey. So we said the last Hey represents the neshama as it's invested in the terrestrial, literal, material reality of a person's life, and that when a person does Teshuvah, he or she restores the Hey back to the Vav. So you complete the electromagnet, so to speak. Things are working again. There was a division, a barrier that was brought about through sin, that divided us, that distanced us from Hashem, and through Teshuvah, we're able to undo the damage. So, the Alter Rebbe now describes this impact of Teshuvah here in the most literal ways. Before we described it in kind of a spiritual chemistry, we spoke about letters of Hashem's name. The bottom half, the bottom quarter of the page. V'chein mamash lamata, the same kind of reorganization of the subatomic matter of the neshama happens in this physical, terrestrial world. B'nefesh olei kis sheba'adam, in the godly soul that's invested within a human. Shuv ein avenisechem avdilim. From this point onward, the sins will no longer be separating the person from Hashem. Ukamesha kasov, like it says in the end of the litany of words that I used to describe Yud Gimel Midas HaRachamim, the 13 attributes of mercy, the last of the words is Vinake. Vinake means, like the Hebrew word nikayon. What does nikayon mean? Clean. So Vinake means clean. Everything's cleaned off. Menake hu l'shavim, as it says in the Talmud, it cleans as long as you do Teshuvah. If you don't do Teshuvah, it can't clean. But as long as you do Teshuvah, or as long as you, so to speak, get online, then you download the program, and then what happens is, it cleans up the system. Lirchaitz ulanakais nafsham milavushim hatzayim. It cleans up and cleanses the system, the soul, from its filthy, soiled garments. Heim hachitzainim. This is the extraneous reality of creation. Kameshakasav v'gemara, like the Gemara says, milafa fasei. It wraps him. Person becomes wrapped in it. Okay, so this requires a little bit of explanation. Firstly, the concept of the soul becoming soiled, or the soul becoming darkened, means that the soul absorbs foreign material, toxins. But the toxins, they adhere to the soul, they become like part of the soul's material. It's not like just a superficial thing which is easily taken away. It infiltrates the subatomic structure of the soul, and it becomes part of the soul. And now the soul, once you ingest that poison, once something becomes tainted with radioactive material or waste, what happens is that the entirety of the structure, the subatomic the nuclear physics change. Why? Because it becomes contaminated. And you can't, physically in the material world, it's not possible to clean up nuclear fallout. You can't reorganize matter. You can clean off schmutz, you can get at Mr. Clean, and you can use fantastic, you can clean off something which is superficial. But once it goes down or bores into the very core essence of the material that we deal with here, which is the neshama, the soul, it's not possible really to clean. On a literal level, on a technical level, system, from what we call perspective of the system, it would not be cleansable. But nonetheless, it says Vinake. And so what happens is that the nefesh is closed milevushim hatzoyim. Now, levushim hatzoyim is a biblical terminology which is used for sins. There's a famous nevuah that the prophet Zechariah had, when the Jewish people came back to Eretz Yisrael, and the Kohen Gadol was a man in Yehoshua, and Yehoshua had children who were intermarried and had abandoned Judaism, and he sees this image of an olive tree with oil coming forward, and that directly bringing energy or oil into the menorah, and Yehoshua is standing with soiled clothes. And the soiled clothes represents the fact that his family had veered off the path of Yiddishkeit. And the soiled clothes is said to mean the idea of the sins. So Yeshua, Kohen Gadol, has these soiled clothes, and then there's a story where an angel comes with a coal and says, Yiger b'cha satan. All story. Bottom line is, he says Yeshua is a good person and he's cleansed, and he's going to be the one to bring about the restoration of the second Beis HaMikdash, which is what happens. But that's the first time we use this terminology of begadim hatzoyim. The problem with the terminology, especially in our modern age where we have metaphors which are much more pernicious than just soiled clothes, is that one would think if it's just soiled garments, so you can just easily take soiled garments off. Like, what's the big deal? You don't need to have a hurricane of Teshuvah energy. You don't need to have anything special happen. You're wearing dirty clothes, take dirty clothes off. But the truth is that the clothes here, the metaphor, it's not just simply like clothes. And that's why he adds, the Gemara tells us that these levushim hatzoyim are melafafasei. Melafafasei means that it actually adheres itself to, it becomes like it sticks to the surface, but to the point that it totally wraps him around. When it totally wraps him around, it's not really possible to remove it anymore. Now, the chitzonim, this is a terminology that's used to describe anything that God creates for an extraneous purpose, meaning it is not needed for its own end. It doesn't have its own end. Its own end actually is going to be destroyed. When Mashiach will come, it says, the Satan and all negativity is going to be eliminated once and for all. But till Mashiach comes, it's a very profound reality we have to deal with. And what is the purpose? Why did Hashem create this? Well, the answer simply is that it's a means to an end. That's what we call it chitzonim. It's the external stuff. It's not what life's really about. It's like somebody says, I do these various things. Why? In order to get to the end. I have an end goal in mind. I have a purpose. I need to get to my purpose. I need to get to my purpose. So I have chitzonim. I have superficial things I have to be involved in. There are a lot of people who don't go to work because they love their work or they enjoy their careers, if you want to call it that. They go to work because they have to go to work. And what would happen if they won the lottery and didn't have to go to work? Then they wouldn't go to work. Would they be happier? I'm not sure. But a person could actually choreograph his life to do the things that he or she wants to do instead of the things that he or she is forced to do. So things that you're forced to do, that's chitzonius. That's the external reality. That's called chitzonius haratzon. So the person says, I want to go to work now. Do you really want to? No, I don't really want to, but I need to. So because I need to, that's why I want to. So that's called extraneous. And that's called things which are a means to an end but have no value in and of themselves. Klipa, the husk of creation, or that which is ungodly, or that which is an overt, at least for what we could see, is devoid of godly meaning and purpose. Its only purpose is to test us, to challenge us. So once we overcome it, like once we get rid of it, we're in good shape. You peel away the peel, throw the peel away, eat the fruit. That's what klipa is about. Here, instead of a person approaching the material reality, peeling away the extraneous nature, and then turning to what's good, like the Baal Shem Tov interprets the verse, Sur meira va'asei tov, turn away from the bad, push the negativity aside, va'asei tov, work with the good, ba'kei shalom v'ladfeo, then try to bring about peace or synergy, balance in this world, in that everything can and should become a vehicle for godliness. Here's a person who, instead of turning away from the good, he actually ingests the good, the evil. He makes the evil a part of his life, and the evil surrounds him. It inundates him. It saturates him. And the Gemara uses the term melafafasei. Now, if it was just clothes are not melafafasei. Melafafasei is more like a person who has an injury and is bandaged up. But even that, the truth is, it goes much deeper than this. Because once we have a melafafasei situation, you actually can't just peel it off. It doesn't go like that. It becomes actually a part of the person, like stitches that melt. They become part of you. And now you're stuck. So why can't I say a person does Averis? Now I'm done doing Averis. Now I'll go do mitzvahs. What's the problem? Why did the Averis have to follow me around? why do I have to be stuck with Averis if I'm not doing the Aver now? That's like saying to a person had experiences in life. It's okay, you know what, I'm ready to turn that part of life off. I'll just shut the switch on that day. I'll forget this day ever happened, and I'll move on. Is that possible? That people have trauma in their lives. As small children, they were abused or hurt or frightened until, like for the rest of their life, they have trauma. You can't just turn it off. That's what an enormous amount of therapy is required sometimes, to get rid of the trauma from things that happened in the past. And not always does it succeed. Sometimes the best therapy can do for you is give you tools and a strategy to cope with the problems and issues you have. The issues are issues. How are you going to cope with it? Why can't I just get rid of it? Just take off the garment, throw it away, because it becomes a part of you. And everything in life in general becomes a part of us, especially sin. So it's like explained elsewhere, sin loves its master. The master doesn't love sin, but sin loves its master. And really the best metaphor I can think of is like a tumor. The tumor attaches itself, and the tumor is draining you of your lifeblood. The tumor loves the person. The person hates the tumor. The tumor loves it. He's just schlepping everything he could out. He's siphoning off all the life he could. And we have a problem when the tumor is, so to speak, really deep, perniciously attached. At a certain point, you can't take it away. It becomes almost an extension. It's like it's impossible to remove it. It's there. It's there. It's here to stay. There's nothing you can do about it. Is it possible for a person who had unbelievable trauma at a certain point in life just to turn the lights off? Forget about that? It's actually not possible. It's actually not humanly possible. We always have that baggage with us afterwards. And people have sometimes post-traumatic stress disorder where they never dealt with issues and the stuff builds up and you really have problems. But even when you're not PSTD, you just have issues. We are formed, life's experiences form us. They make us who we are. And because life experience make us who we are, so that's who I am now. I'm a conjunction of a little bit of light and a lot of darkness. A little bit of what life's really about and a lot of chitzonius. It's stuck to me. So now this is the situation that we have. It's malacha fasei. It totally surrounds him. It's woven into the fabric of his life. So how do you get rid of it? If it's woven into the fabric, how do you get rid of it? So the Alter Rebbe says this is the incredible nature of Teshuvah. Once the spirit, the wind, blows in and cleanses them, then the soul can return to Havaya, to this which is the level of the transcendent energy of divinity. To then begin to rise from level to level, to its original source. To cleave unto God, in a wondrous oneness. So this wondrous oneness, which we speak of, as we're soon going to hear, is connected to the concept of breathing or breath. Here's the point. If a person experienced sin, and now the strands of sin run through the tapestry of life, and those strands of sin that run through the tapestry of life necessarily disable communion and oneness with Hashem. You can't be one. It's like you have these magnetic strips that repel, that don't, part of the magnet wants to pull and connect to the source, and you have these anti-magnetic strips, and they're woven right in. And because that's the case, part of the magnet wants to draw, it feels a yearning, a pulling, but there's a large part of, let's say, this material made up of magnetic strands, that's the magnetic strands that pull, and magnetic strands that pull the other way. They're pulling the other way. What would happen to something like that? That has a double flow of magnets pulling it in, and at the same time pulling it out. What do you think that would look like? No connection. It would look like maybe a guilty conscience trying to pull itself, but never being able to pull itself in. Moving, it's like almost like a tug of war. You'd see this magnetic blanket. You'd see it shaking. You'd see it blowing in the wind. You'd see it in a state of discomfort. You'd see agitation. You wouldn't see a seamless cleaving, like something cleaves to its magnet, goes back, because it's got all these strands of the anti-magnet stuff pulling the other direction. This is exactly what sin is. So once that becomes part of my life, I can't be one with Hashem anymore. Sin necessarily disables me from oneness to Hashem. So a lot of people foolishly think that sin, shmin, makes no difference. I'm a yid anyway. At the end of the day, I'm a yid. And they say, God loves me anyway. It doesn't make a difference. So I did what I did, and mitzvah is still a mitzvah. And to be sure, there's truth to that. A mitzvah is still a mitzvah, for the most part. And a mitzvah is still meaningful, and it is still a good thing. But you know what the Gemara says when the query is raised, should I do a mitzvah if I'm doing it for the wrong reasons? The Gemara says, do it. Why? Because out of doing it for the wrong reasons, hopefully you'll end up doing it for the right reasons. The mystical interpretation that the Rabbi used to always repeat is, mitoich, deep down, at some latent subconscious level, the reason I'm doing it, even though it looks like shalei lishma, but deep down I'm motivated ultimately by a lishma for the right reasons. But the bottom line is that when a person is doing whatever he's doing, he brings with him all the baggage from life, and the baggage from life gets in the way. There's a lot of friction. There's a lot of white noise, and that interrupts the broadcast. So you're not hearing the broadcast. Or you're hearing a very, very spotty, crackling voices. You don't have any clarity. But the good news is we have Teshuvah. And Teshuvah means that once that wind blows in, the nefesh can return ad havaya baruch hu mamash. The nefesh can return to havaya. Not only it can return to Havaya, it can begin to rise level after level in Mekayra to its original source. It can cleave to God b'yichud nifla in a wondrous state of union. How close can you get? How at one can you be? So at one that you, just as you were initially, before the neshama began its descent, it was betachlas hayichud. It was in a total state of union. It was beterem shenafcha beruach piv yizbarech leided lamata, before it proverbially was blown into this material reality, because God blows the soul into the nostril of man. That's what it says. Vayipach ba'apav nishmas chayim. He blew into his nostrils a soul of life. That's how we describe the creation of Adam Rishon. So just as you understand that before a person exhales, that the breath that he could exhale, the potentially exhaled breath, before it's exhaled, where is it? It's in your lungs. It's inside you. It has been separated from you. When you exhale, you take some of the wind or oxygen that's inside. So before you blow it out, it's inside you. Now, obviously, you can't take a breath and put it back into somebody's lungs. In the material, on a physical level, this metaphor doesn't work. But that's because we are but one detail in a world filled with conglomeration and divisiveness. So we are not that which is outside of us. And because of that, once something leaves our person, it cannot be put back inside. But when it comes to God, there is no God and a world. Everything is godliness. So because everything is godliness, like we learned in the Chumash yesterday, that God can send his arrows, but the arrows never disconnected from the sender. It can always be pulled back. You can't really imagine that. You send an arrow and pull it back in midway. The bullet is fired, and midway decide to redirect the bullet. Once the bullet's gone, it's gone. Once it's left the barrel, it's finished. And yet, Rashi tells us in yesterday's Chumash, that's not the case with HaKadosh Baruch Hu. Even when the arrow sets forth, even when the bullet is out of the barrel, it's still in control. So Hashem it's never leaving God, so to speak, or godliness. And because of that, even though overtly speaking, it seems like the neshama has left us, so to speak, left godliness, and now it feels independent of God, and now it's been blown into the nostrils of a human, and the human being feels that he can make his juvenile declaration of independence and tell God, jump in the lake, and I can do what I want because it's my life, and you can't tell me what to do. And God says, okay, if that's how you want it to be. God's not going to mix in, he doesn't get involved, and people do foolish things and ruin their lives, and they go through life, and so life becomes a wasted opportunity, tragically and unfortunately. And HaKadosh Baruch Hu allows that. However, when a person does Teshuvah, he can return to the state of oneness, not the state of oneness before he sinned. He can return to the state of oneness of before he was breathed into existence, before he got his independence, which is actually a negative thing. We don't want to be independent of God. But God made us independent of him, so we should be able to make the right choices. And that necessitates the possibility of the wrong choices. So when HaKadosh Baruch Hu blows the neshama into the nostrils, when a yid tries to undo the damage, if you will, or return to sender, it's possible that the oneness with God should be experienced. It's as if God's breathing back in. It's as if the breath that was exhaled is now inhaled and returns, just as you imagine your breath could restore. A person, let's say, would breathe into a bag and then inhale the same air. So here, it's exhaled, the neshama comes out of godliness, and the neshama is reabsorbed back into godliness. Beterem shenafcha, in the kind of oneness that it experienced, forget sin. We're past sin now. Now we're talking about undoing the impact of creation and of birth and of life itself, which the neshama was blown, leided lamata, so that it would, metaphorically speaking, come down below, liislabish begufa adam, that it could become embodied in a physical incarnation. Ukmayel derech mashal the Alter Rebbe adds in the parentheses, if you need to have a graphic example of this, if a person was about to breathe out, to excel with great force, before the exhalation leaves his mouth, it's still at one with him. And this, my friends, is Teshuvah Shlema. This is full return. Because what we seek here is not restoration only of what was prior to the negativity, but after a person sinned and he begins the process of Teshuvah, the ultimate goal of Teshuvah is not only to get back to where we were prior to the sin, but to get back to where we were prior to existence itself, prior to the possibility of sin. Because the possibility of sin is a possibility of godlessness. And because the possibility of godlessness exists, you're already not in a state of communion and oneness. So you're almost doing tshuva for damages you didn't do. Right? That's not a damage we did. To be in a state of possible sinning, God does that. That's His business. Then we sinned. That was our business. And then we try to undo that damage. So we undo the damage we did to ourselves. And then, if you do tshuva for real and fully, not only do you undo the damage that you did to yourself, but ultimately you continue this trajectory and undo the damage that God did to you in order for you to fix it. God does that damage. He breaks a broken world, so we should fix the world. He creates an imperfect reality, so we should fix the imperfect reality. So ultimately, the possibility of sin leads us to rebound, to boomerang back. And when we rebound, not only are we undoing the damages we did, but even undoing that which Hashem had ordained in the beginning of our existence. This is very heavy stuff. Now you understand that we no longer speak about sins. Right? Like I told you last class or 2 classes ago, that what the Bchatzkel Abramsky told Rabbi Jonathan Sachs as a young boy. He said, we're learning about Teshuvah. He said, by us, in the yeshiva world, Teshuvah is a thing you do when you have Averis. He says, by them, the Hasidim, they're always doing Teshuvah. Right? Because the way Hasidus explains Teshuvah, it's not just a byproduct of sin. You did a sin, now let's make up. No, it's much, much more. It's being able to achieve total oneness with God. And the truth is that the Gemara supports our case. Like this, real Yiddishkeit, the real Torah tradition says exactly that. It says, Tachlis, the ultimate purpose is Teshuvah u'maisem tovim. Teshuvah and good deeds. Why is that the Tachlis? Who says that has to be Averis? It's not about just Averis. It's much more profound than Averis. And actually there are 2 levels of Teshuvah. There's Teshuvah Tata and Teshuvah Ilah. There's the lower level of Teshuvah and a higher level of Teshuvah. The lower level of Teshuvah is to undo the sin. That the Yud Kei Vav, the Vav, the last Hey was separated. Who truncates that? Who cuts it off? You cut it off. So you have to undo that damage now. That's Teshuvah Tata. That's true. When somebody tells you, what do you mean? Teshuvah has a definition. The Alter Rebbe himself earlier in this very epistle, this very collection of chapters, began by saying, Aziva Sachet, abandoning sin, this is Teshuvah. Minatayra, that is Teshuvah. Right? True. That is Teshuvah. That's Teshuvah Tata. That's the lower level of Teshuvah. And Teshuvah Tata, lower level of Teshuvah, means undoing the self-inflicted wounds and damage. However, Teshuvah Ilah, the higher level of Teshuvah, is to undo reality itself. Undo the possibility of sin that God put in place. Now, Bechinas v'hine Bechinas yichud zeh v'teshuvah zoi, this kind of oneness, this kind of Teshuvah, Bechinas Teshuvah Ilah. This is Teshuvah Ilah. Shala'achat Teshuvah Tata. That has to follow Teshuvah Tata. Obviously, if a person is still stuck in sin, if a person hasn't undone the self-inflicted damage, how do you expect to undo the potential damage of the possibility of sin if you're still sinning? Needless to say, a person has to first leave behind the sins, leave behind your inappropriate behavior, and only after you leave behind sin and inappropriate behavior, only then can you go to the next level of trying to undo the damages that, so to speak, Hashem inflicted by putting you in a potential situation. So after Teshuvah Tata, like it says in the holy book of Zohar, in the Raya Mehemna, which is one of the codicils of the Zohar, in Parshas Nasai, that it says there that Teshuvah Ilah, what is Teshuvah Ilah? This asek be'eraisa, that a person engages and immerses himself in Torah study, b'dechilu v'rechimu, with a sense of love and awe, which are the 2 basic poles of the emotions, the kutshabrichu v'chulu, with a love for God, etc. The ihu ben yudke bina, because those feelings, that's emotions. Ahav is an emotion. Yireh, awe, reverence, respect is an emotion. Those emotions are engendered by They're like called children, offspring. Who are they engendered by? By the parent figures. Who are the parent figures? Yud K. Yud represents the masculine, and the Hey represents the feminine. In the language of Kabbalah, Yud is Chachma, and Hey is Bina. So when the father and mother get together, when they unite, which is that Chachma and Bina come together, that a person gets it. That's Chachma. You got the idea. Somebody threw an idea at you, and it's almost like catching the idea. So somebody threw it at you, you caught it. So, oh, I got it. Actually, they teach you in communication class that when you share an idea, it's like throwing a ball. See, some people, they don't really know what they're doing. They don't speak, they just go like this the whole time, like this, like one of these, like. But they're not speaking to anybody. Not only they're not speaking to everybody, they speak to anybody. So what are you supposed to do? You speak to everybody. How do you speak to everybody? By speaking to everybody. You're speaking to everybody by speaking to everybody. So you throw a ball, and you catch it. You throw a ball. It's like a to and fro. You're throwing the ball. You're catching it. You got it. Getting it is chachma. I got it. I grasp it. Now, that's creativity. Sometimes creativity could also be coming up with an idea. But it's not only that. That's a mistake to think that chachma only is when I come up with an idea. When somebody says whatever it may be, something wise, and you're thinking, I don't know what he's talking about. I say it again. Say it a third time. Say it a fourth time. You get it? See ya? Oh, got it. I chapped it. Some people have a very, what's called in the yeshiva language, ashnela tfisa. They're able to grab it quickly. What does it mean to grab it quickly? It's to get it. That's moyach chachma. What happens when you get it? Now you have to think about it. Now you have to really understand it. So then moves going from chachma into bina. Chachma into bina. What does bina mean? Analyze. Take the idea and develop it. And what happens when you finish taking the idea and develop it? Then you're ready to make a decision. Then you're ready to move forward from the world of intellect into the world of practical engagement, which is emotions. Which is on a level, first das. Das is an opinion. You form an opinion, but ultimately, it's not only just an opinion. I become passionately engaged in my opinion. I feel strongly about it. You feel. Intellect doesn't feel. Intellect is feelingless. There are some people, Nebuch, who are mentally ill. They don't have the ability to feel what others have pain. They didn't feel their own pain. It's called autism. Brilliant people. Some of the best computer programmers. But they don't know how to relate. They can't engage with people. They have no sense of when to hug, when to not, when to be quiet, when to be audible. What are they missing? They're missing midas. They're missing emotions. They don't know how to relate. Emotions are how we relate. Intellect is how we do problem solving. So a person can be very smart, book smart, but a total loser when it comes to social graces, and no social graces. That doesn't mean you're mentally ill, it just means you have no social graces. When it goes into a form of illness is when you get onto the spectrum of somebody who actually not only doesn't have social graces, it's not only just awkward, which some people are just awkward, it's a person who just can't function. Dysfunction is not just awkward. Dysfunction means the person just does not function. They don't know how to relate to people. Right? Animals have only emotion. That's a different kind of sickness. Like Down's children. They have amazing emotions. They're full of love. They overflow with love. They're little balls of love. They laugh and they're happy and they love so much, but there's no maturity of intellect. And the normal person has to have a balance. We're fortunate to have a normal balance. The Eibishter gives us intellect, and God gives us emotions. So with the intellect we understand, with the emotions we relate. And the Alter Rebbe teaches that in order to properly relate, you first have to understand. That's why this Chassidus is called Chabad. Chassidus Chabad, right? Lubavitch Chabad. Chabad is about understanding. Getting it, thinking about it, until you form an opinion. Chochmah Bina Das. And once you have Chochmah Bina Das in place, the Midas will follow. Interestingly enough, Lubavitch means city of love. It's very interesting. Chabad Lubavitch is the whole picture. Chabad is intellect. Lubavitch means love, is the emotions. So this is how we're supposed to function, and this is why the Zohar says the Iyu Ben Yudke Bina. Ben Yudke Bina means that life comes ultimately always from our mother. The first woman was named Chava. What's Chava? Ein Kol Chai, the mother of all life. When somebody is sick and we give them a Misha Berach, whose name do we use? The Hebrew name and the mother's Hebrew name. Why the mother's Hebrew name? Because the mother is the source of life. The mother gives life. And here's a person who's ill. And because they're ill, they're losing some of their life. They're not going to have life. And we need to restore life. Where does life come from? Life comes from your mother. And then when a person dies, which name do we use? The father. So foolish people now are trying to undo the system. It's not equal. We have to put the father and the mother's name on the tombstone. Like really, why? Like, what do you think? Jewish tradition is just idiotic and chauvinistic? There's a rhyme and reason. Do we give the father's name and we make a mishaberach? There's a time we use the mother's name, a time we use the father's name. When it comes to life, when we're trying to restore life, giving somebody a bracha, the bracha for life, we use the mother's name. Yes, when you want to identify somebody's lineage, you use the father's name. Because the son of a Cohen is a Cohen, that's why he gets called to the Torah by the father's name. And that lineage is what you pass on, and that stays on even when you're no longer technically alive. That's what goes on the tombstone. But life, like when a person makes a mishaberach, or when you write to the Rebbe for a bracha, you use your mother's name. So Ben Yudke means that the father stimulates something, he gets a process going, but ultimately life, the process of gestation, takes place within the mother. And the mother gives that life. We remain tethered and connected to our mothers forever. We never separate from our mothers. We're always connected to our mother. That's the proverbial Yiddish mama. So this is the idea of serving Hashem with this kind of love, with studying Torah, which is to cleave to Hashem. Studying Torah means to become one with Hashem. When you study Torah with a sense of fervor, with a sense of awe, with a sense of passion, with a sense of emotional engagement, which is Av of a Yira, right? It's love and awe, which is the Ben Yudke, the son of Yud, the offspring of Yudke. It means Yudke is Chachma and Bina, but emphasis here is on Bina, because that's our mother. V'chulu. That's what Teshuvah law is all about. Now comes the question, if that's what Teshuvah law is all about, then why is the Baal Teshuvah higher than the Tzaddik? Doesn't the Tzaddik do that already? The Tzaddik spends his whole life cleaving to God. He spends his whole life becoming closer to Hashem. And he immerses himself in Torah as much as possible. And he does it with fervor and passion and awe and love and respect. So, a Baal Teshuvah and a Tzaddik, the same thing. Maybe. But certainly no virtue in Baal Teshuvah. So Alter Rebbe concludes the chapter by saying, "O Mailas Baal Teshuvah al Tzadikim," the towering virtue of the Baal Teshuvah vis-a-vis the Tzaddik, Gemurim he, K'meshikosav Bezer, like it says in the Holy Book of Zohar and Parshas Chayesara, the Inon Mashchi Olayu Berusa Deliba Yatir. When they cleave to God, they cleave to God with much greater force, much greater passion. B'cheli Yatir, with much greater strength. Le'skarva l'malka, to become close to Hashem v'chulu. Why is that? There's that famous words of David HaMelech that we have put to a number of Hasidic songs. Tzamalacha nafshi, kamalacha b'sari. Right? My soul thirsts for you. My flesh pines for you. Right? Be'eretz tziyah v'oyef, in a land that's dry and parched. You know when you really want to drink? When you're in a land that's dry and parched. You know when you really value something? When you don't have it. The tzaddik, he doesn't have that thirst, he doesn't have that yearning, he doesn't have that craving, that desire, because the tzaddik is always there. He's in a state of comfort. But the Baal Teshuvah was so far away, and even as much as the Teshuvah is able to blow all the toxins away, like a wind that just blows away the hurricane clouds, and it just blows all this negative, blows all the tumors out of their body, it just blows everything away. All of a sudden, it lifts all those strands of anti-magnetic material, just lifts them, blows them straight out of the tapestry. It's gone. So we don't even know how that's possible. Teshuvah is a miracle. Like we say in the liturgy of davening, we say, Meifes HaKamos. Yom Kippur is called the concealed miracle. We don't even understand. It's a miracle. How's it possible? Like the cloth that was dyed red that would miraculously turn white on Yom Kippur in the Beis HaMikdash. Like it's a meifas hakama, so it can't be. Once the strands of cloth once they're dyed red, they're red. How can they turn white? Just like this, they just turn white. So this miracle of being able to get rid of sin, the impacts of sin, which are that they disable us from connecting to Hashem, are suddenly gone. And now I am able to cleave and connect to Hashem. So, interestingly, we find out now that inasmuch as the sin is gone, there's a lingering effect of the sin. But this one's positive. How could sin be positive? Because the fact that I sinned makes me yearn for Hashem so much more. And because I'm yearning for Hashem so much more, even I got rid of the negative impact of sin. But I didn't get rid of the positive impact. It's like a person who, through intense therapy, would undo the damage done to him as a child, and because of this be a more compassionate, loving person. Because he was tortured, because he was abused, that's why he has a sense of empathy and sensitivity that the other person never has. And who makes the best therapist? The person who himself had this experience. Who makes the best teacher of the Torah? The Baal Teshuvah. Who is the best example? The person who was once there, because he understands. Rabbi Akiva, yeah, and somebody like that. And this then is the purpose and mission and point of Teshuvah. But the amazing thing is that Mashiach's accomplishment will be, Mashiach will come to bring La'asav Tzadikaya b'tiyufta, to bring the tzaddik into Teshuvah. Imagine that the tzaddik should experience the same powerful yearning and craving that the Baal Avera did. Now about Teshuvah. We don't even know how that's fully possible. But this will be the accomplishment of Mashiach. And ultimately, through Teshuvah, which brings about not only a restoration of spirit to the pre-sin reality, but from Teshuvah to Torah we go into Teshuvah Ilah, the higher form of Teshuvah, which restores the spirit to where it once was, to breathe back in the oneness of breath that was once, in that metaphor, part of God. That's what's accomplished with Teshuvah Ilah. And if it comes after Teshuvah Tatah, which comes as the result of a sin, then it's in a higher madrega, it's in a loftier level even than the Avodah, the service of the Tzaddik. And with this we conclude chapter 8.